All right, so the first part of the hands-on, we're gonna look to provision environment through TextZone. And so there's a couple of things that we do need to do beforehand, before we get there. One is to create a GitHub personal access token and create a Git org. So I'm gonna go through this with you. So first thing I'm gonna ask is if you haven't joined the Slack channel, please join this Cloud Pak Production Guide users. And then the second thing is if you can open up a browser and go to github.com. We're gonna make sure that you guys are all logged in first. Some of you might not have logged in a while, so I just want to make sure that you're able to get in. When you are logged into github.com, so the first thing we're gonna do, and I'll actually put the instructions, everything I'm gonna go through is actually on the deployment guide website and under the quick start demos. So just in case for you guys to reference, right? Once we get through this call, I'm just going to click on one of these recipes and you can see on the right-hand navigation, there's a set of prereqs. Create a GitHub organization, create a GitHub personal access token, and provision a cluster. I'm basically going to take you through this process, right? So once you are logged into github.com, the first thing we're going to do is create a personal access token, right? So go ahead and select the top right-hand corner, select your little user, and then go ahead and select settings. Once you've gotten into your settings, you're going to scroll down to near the bottom and then click on developer settings. Once you've gotten there, you should see a personal access token. And when you get here, you'll see on the top right, there will be a button to generate a new token. So give your token a name, TechFest. Set the expiration to 60 or 90 days. And the scopes that are needed, just going to go back to this website here, is inside this little twisty. So it's a little small, so I do need to make this bigger. So the scopes that you're going to be selecting, one is the repo. So let me actually do that and then you guys can see. So you're going to select the repo scope. You're going to select under admin org, the read. You're going to select the admin repo hook, as well as the admin org hook. Okay, so let me make this bigger. So you can, once you've selected these four scopes, go ahead and click on the button to generate token. And then once you, for those who have clicked the generate token, your token will show up on your screen. Please copy and paste that somewhere. Don't share with anyone. We're gonna need that key. All right. All right, just gonna wait for 10 more seconds. This is as folks kind of catch up. So once you generate the token, so you will have this token that will show on your screen. So make sure to save that, and I will make sure to delete my token afterwards. But the next thing we're going to do is going to create a personal GitHub organization. Right? So let me share this link here, actually, so you guys can get to it directly. So the reason why we want to create a custom Git organization is we're going to be loading your org with a set of GitOps repos, which will be used to bootstrap your cluster. Okay, so you can either go to the link I just pasted, or from github.com, you can hit that plus button and you can see this option to create a new organization. So once you get to this page to create a new org, select for the free create a free organization, and you're going to give it a name, okay? So TechFest, see, all right? So also keep copy and paste this organization name, as we're going to need to feed this in to the text zone when we create the cluster. So TechFest, I'm just copying it down myself. All right, give your contact email.
Well, it's just to, as a tip, to make it a all lowercase and use dashes.
Yes, thank you, guys. Yes, please don't use any spaces. Just keep it with character letters and dashes only, please.
Yeah. Lowercase, letters, dashes, and numbers. What we choose.
Select your personal account, click the verify button, and just look for this spiral galaxy, and then click next. So once you get to this page, click complete setup, and then it's going to ask you a couple of questions. You can skip all of that and just click submit at the bottom. All right. So once you've done, you should have a brand new Git organization that has no repositories inside. Okay. So here are the instructions of what I just walked through in terms of creating a Git organization.
So while people are catching up, Hollis, I think what's valuable here to understand is when we get started with clients, oftentimes they have an existing Git organization created. They have their own client. It could be private. Assuming we get network connectivity, right? This could be a good way to seed a lot of best practices into a client's Git repo, even if it's their, MVP or their POC, or they're getting started in a client environment. Right? This is a good way to think about, hey, we can provision a set of Git repos with some Cloud Pak and OpenShift best practices that we recommend as part of our Expert Labs engagement.
And the next step, what we're going to be doing is, now that we have a Git organization, a Git personal access token, we're going to go to text zone and request a cluster.
A clarification for some folks. We are using public GitHub, not the IBM GitHub server. So it's github.com, not github.ibm.com, and github.com. Some of these assets are public, so it's available for clients. You can practice with this with clients.
Cool. Thank you, Carlos. So now we're going to go into IBM Technology Zone and request a cluster. So I'll give it a minute. For folks, you have to log in with your W3 account. And once you get to text zone, you should see the same portal that I'm sharing on my screen here. So creating the cluster will take a bit of time, and that's why we're doing this provisioning up front now, and give it time for it to kind of complete. So what we're going to do is search for the production deployment guide. So production deployment guide. And the first tile that shows up should be the production deployment guide for Cloud Pak Solutions. So go ahead and click that, and you'll get to the page that Roland was kind of showing on his screen. And the first thing we're going to do, you'll notice that there is this link right on the main page, and this is the link to the guide. And so everything that I'm going through right now in terms of setting up the GitHub org, GitHub token, it's all inside this deployment guide page, okay? Now we're going to click on the try it, get a GitOps cluster. So go ahead and click that tile. And you should see two tiles. So the one on the left is where we're going to walk through to provision up a cluster. So go ahead and click that tile. And then you should see this create a reservation page. So go ahead and select the Reserve Now button. And then you should get prompted to the form where you need to fill it out. So with the name, go ahead and place the name of the GitHub organization that you created as the name of your environment tile. Okay, so for me, I created an HC TechFest-01. The purpose, select the practice self-education. So with this, you will get a cluster that will last 2 weeks. Next page. So for the purpose, select the GitOps, practice self-education and specify a purpose or description. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to say GitOps enablement. Right? You can see that my cluster will be deleted on October 20th. So you get the cluster for 2 weeks. Now for the preferred geography, okay, I think with the recent uptake on folks trying out TechZone, there are a number of data centers that are hitting the quota limits. So the team this morning just added a couple of new data centers or accounts. So the highest chance of like success of being able to provision a cluster is one if you choose one of these last 3 data centers. You're more than welcome to choose the other ones, but I would avoid at least Washington, D.C. as that one is at the moment full on this account. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to select Sydney. Okay. Once you've selected your data center, we're going to select a 5-node cluster, and you can leave the default to 8 by 32. So for the GitHub Personal API token, go ahead and paste the token that you generated. And then similarly, paste the GitHub organization that you created. And with this, just please be careful when you paste your GitHub organization. Just make sure that there are no spaces when you paste it in, okay? Just make sure there's no spaces before or after. Just be careful there. For select NFS size, you're going to leave that as a default of 500 gigabytes. What this is going to do is create a storage class on your OpenShift cluster where you can leverage for testing, right? For leveraging to create storage. So once you've done this, go ahead and click submit. So actually what this is doing is actually requesting a ROKS cluster. The process we're going through is provisioning a ROKS classic cluster, and it will be at OCP OpenShift 4.7 is what we will be provisioning. Just a quick recap of what we've done. We created a Git organization, a Git personal access token. We are requesting a IBM OpenShift cluster, right? A managed cluster ROKS, OpenShift 4.7. And then what will happen in the next hour is as your cluster provisions, you will see that your GitHub organization gets populated. Certain GitOps repos will be forked in there. And then in part 2 of the hands-on, I'll be walking through what you're getting in your cluster, what's happening in the bootstrap process, and then we're going to go through the next steps to actually deploy a Cloud Pak. So at the moment, the OCP version is set to 4.7. Later on, we will update this wizard to kind of give users the option to select the version, but at the moment, it's set to 4.7. Sorry, so I'm going to go ahead and click submit. And what you will see is the confirmation that the reservation has been sent. And if you click on My Reservations, you will see kind of this tile, right? So this tile here is the environment that you provision. You can see that it's set to be scheduled, and the provisioning process should should start, I think, in about like kind of 8 minutes from when you click the submit button, right? You should also get an email as well once the the provisioning has started. And if it completes successfully, you'll also get an email. So I can show you an example of what that would look like after in part 2 of the hands-on. So now I'm going to pass it over. So what we've done is we've kind of created our token, our provision, a cluster. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Booty to kind of walk through some of the golden topology around the infrastructure, specifically for like ROKS, Arrow, and Rosa.